Okay, I'm going to tell you another powerful technique you can use alongside this method of setting up these Google Maps listings, and that is selling the leads or renting out your Google Maps listing. So in other words, I'm talking about you actually set up a listing on the maps, you start the phone ringing, and then you sell the leads of the phone calls that are coming through that maps listing, or you just rent it out to a client. And this is actually one I just wanted to show you, just so you know, this is not, I'm just making this up. This is one of the listings I have set up. You can see all these phone calls coming in. This is actually in the pet grooming niche, and we have some of them recorded.
Good morning. My name is Nilda. I'm hoping you have an opening today for a full groom for a husky.
I'm wondering if you had any openings today for a cut and shave for my dog. He is...
Let me play a couple more of these here.
Hi, my name is Chuck Wagner. I have 2 small dogs, maybe 1 medium. I need to know if they can get a haircut.
Anyway, you get the idea.
Yeah, hi. My name is Brenda Winkowski. I'd be a new client. If you can call me back as soon as you open, can you get my dog in today?
Now, if you can imagine, now this is just going straight to voicemail, how I have this set up. So they call off the maps listing, and they go straight to a voicemail where they leave their information. And that's one way that you can do it. It's a lot more effective if you can actually get a client to purchase the calls and tell them, hey, you just pay me X amount per call, or even a percentage of the sale, and send the calls directly to their business line and record everything. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how we set that up. But that's the basic method that I'm talking about using this for, and it's a powerful way to utilize Google Maps. And it's actually one of the main ways that I've brought in revenue for my business in the past year. It's just local lead generation. But here's the steps that I would tell you to go through if you want to get something like this set up like you see here. But the first step really is doing keyword research, and I'm not going to get into details of keyword research now because there is an entire video, actually I think a couple of videos dedicated to doing that well. But you want to make sure that you're targeting a market that actually has significant number of searches in it. And significant obviously is a number that changes. What that means changes depending on the market, because you might be in a market where all they need is a few calls per month and they generate thousands of dollars per sale. In that case, you would need a huge volume if you know the value of those calls. Or you go for a market where there's a lot of calls with a smaller price point. But you want to make sure that you're targeting actual keywords that people are searching for and that have maps displaying for those keywords. And both of those things, we have videos here in the members area. I encourage you to watch those. You can use the software that we talk about in those videos. Most of it is free, and you can get a great idea of what would be a good target for you that you could easily compete in that market and get high value phone calls for your prospects that you're pursuing to actually sell those calls to. And I encourage you to watch the videos, because if you think you know about keyword research, it is different for maps-based search and for local searches. So make sure that you watch the videos and focus in on the information that's specifically targeting local. Even if you're a keyword research expert on a national level, local keyword research does take a little bit more drilling down to get accurate numbers. So watch those videos to help you figure out which market to target. Now, one thing I talked about earlier that I want to make sure to emphasize here is you also need to know the value of those leads, the value of a phone call, and the value of a customer before you even try to sell them to a client. And Google AdWords is a great place to get that. If you have a Google AdWords account, they're really easy to get opened, and you can get an idea of the value by just doing a search for your keywords and taking a look at what they would charge you if you were going to buy advertising on Google itself. And in the example that I had earlier, I was showing you those phone recordings. You can see over here that the suggested bid, now this isn't exact, but you can see the suggested bid there for the keywords for pet grooming. And that gives you an idea of if you had a pet groomer that was trying to buy ads on Google, and how much they would be paying per click to get visitors to their website. Now again, that's just a general guesstimate, but you can use it's a great way to figure out is this keyword that I think I'm going to target worth any money or not. You can also just do a search in Google for the keyword phrase and just see, is anyone advertising at all for that? Because if people are paying money for that keyword phrase on Google, then you know that there's money in it, especially if the suggested bid is somewhat high. If the suggested bids are below $1 or below 50 cents, or there's no ads at all in Google for that keyword phrase, then that's not a highly competitive phrase, and you might have trouble selling phone calls in that market, or selling leads, or renting out your Google listing in that market. But if you see people paying, and you see decent bid amounts here, and you see people paying for advertising on Google, then it's a pretty good bet that they would buy the calls. Do a little research on how much the service or product that your prospective client is going to sell. Do a little research to find out how much does it cost. And you can see here, dog groomers typically charge extra for additional services such as teeth cleaning, flea treatments, and nail clipping. Expect to pay between $30 and $90 for standard grooming, obviously depending on the size of your pet. Okay, so right there we've got a great price range there, so that you can get an idea for what type of profit, or at least what type of revenue your prospective client would have for that service. So in general, you want high margin services, high cost services, and these are going to be easier. It's going to be easier to sell phone calls or a Google listing to a prospective client if they get a lot of money for what they are selling. A little research onto the costs of that service. So in this case, how much do groomers make? And you can see here, if you just do the numbers a little bit, you can get a pretty good idea for how much profit is involved in a single sale of a dog grooming. Now again, there's going to be other costs. Obviously they have to rent their space, if they have a storefront, if they have insurance, if they have equipment, utilities, all these types of things. But in general, you want to do a little research, just find out how much margin is there, how much profit do these guys have to work with, and that will help you to figure out how much to sell the phone calls for. Because if you know how much they are getting in profit per sale, then you can get a pretty good idea for what type of price to put on the phone calls, or if you're doing like a monthly rental setup, that can help you to figure out that as well. And really valuable as the next step is go ahead and set up the listing, but just drive them straight to voicemail like I have done here. And you can see I've got all these voicemail recordings in here. You can get that set up before you even have a client on the line. You can set it up before you even before you even talk to a single person on the phone and try to sell them the listing or sell them the phone calls. And it's a really low risk proposition for you because you can set it up and just drive all the phone calls to a voicemail and just get an idea for how many calls are you getting and the quality of the prospects. I mean, if you can listen to these recordings, then you know exactly, are they ready to buy now? Are they looking to set up an appointment right now? Or are they, are they inquiring for pricing? And you can get a lot of information by just doing a bunch of voicemail recordings and trying to see what you get. Just throw it up there and see what comes out. And the other advantage of setting up a voicemail box first is, and just taking voicemails, is you can sell, once you get on you decide, I'm going to try to sell these phone calls, or I'm going to try to sell this listing, or I'm going to try to rent it out. You can tell them, hey, I get X many calls per month or per week or per day, and you can even play them some of the recordings and say, hey, here's some recordings that we have already going. You can even temporarily send the calls to them and say, hey, I'm going to send you calls for a day for free. I won't even charge you for them, and you just let me know, and record everything. Of course, you want to make sure you record everything, and then you can check back and say, hey, we listened to the recordings. It looked like you made a few sales. What do you think? Are you interested in renting this long term, or do you want us to just forward this phone number to someone else? But just having it all set up so that you're collecting calls before you even sell the thing is a huge, huge sales benefit, and it allows you to kind of take your time to tweak it, to rank it, and stuff like that without any pressure. And then you have an existing product with existing easy proof right there to show them once you decide to try to sell the listing or rent the listing or sell the phone calls. Solutions that I recommend that you set up, which we've actually used and work really well. One is OpenVBX, which is an open source free phone system, basically. And I'm going to log into mine and show you what it looks like. VBX interacts with Twilio, which is actually the phone number provider, and it's really simple once you get it set up. I'm going to show you a little bit. Over here, it's a drag and drop, so I can have, once someone calls, what should we do? And I can tell it what I want it to do. And I use this one, dial record, and I just drag it over here. And then you can see right here that I can forward the number to my prospective client. And for the caller ID, I'm going to have the caller's number. You can have it read something before you dial. I'm not going to have it do that. And then down here, call recording, we're going to record from answer. And that means every call that goes through to my prospect or the person buying my calls, the call gets recorded all seamlessly, and that's just when they dial the number on my Google listing. Now, we don't only use OpenVBX, but OpenVBX is just a quick way to do it. Now, you probably will need to get a developer to install it for you. It's server side, so you install it on your web server. You can actually put it on the same web hosting as your website. It doesn't require any kind of advanced hosting or anything. So you need to open a Twilio account and then have your developer install OpenVBX for you. You should be able to get it done even if you just go and hire a freelancer to do it on freelancer.com or Elance or something like that. It's not difficult to do for a developer, and they can do it really quick. It's just a simple package and installation. And once you're there, you can order numbers with OpenVBX. You can set up the voicemails. You can forward numbers wherever you want. You can even add like prompts, like dial 1 to call a pet groomer, dial 2 to order blah blah blah. There's all kinds of stuff you can do with it, all really simple from this drag and drop interface. Okay, now the second option you can use, these aren't the only options, there's just a couple that would be simple for you to get started, is CallFire. And the nice thing about CallFire is, this is a little screenshot of their back office. It's the same kind of thing. You've got call records. It tells you how many minutes, who called when. You can record the calls. The nice thing about CallFire is they also sell you the phone numbers. So it's all one solution, and you don't have to worry about servers or, getting stuff installed by a developer or anything like that. And you can just, do the whole thing just from one login. There's no web hosting involved or anything like that. So CallFire is another example. You can also just use the Google Voice number if you really want to. I mean, Google Voice forwards, numbers forward, everything can be done that way. You could just use the same Google account as your listing, your apps listing is in, and just set up a Google Voice number and send the phone calls wherever you want. It's a little more risky because, obviously then Google can see everything you're doing, but that is a free option. Once you get your thing set up and the calls coming in, one option just to begin contacting people is just to go and look at the people that are already paying for ads in that market. They already have enough of an idea of how to make a profit that they understand they need to buy traffic. So like for instance, if you do Pet Groom in Chicago, you can see right here, here is a Chicago pet groomer, and it gives the address right there, and they are buying ads already. So you can just click on their ad and just call them and say, hey, notice you were buying traffic on Google AdWords. I have phone calls coming in, X number of phone calls per day coming in, people in your area seeking pet groomers. Would you be interested in buying those on a pay-per-call basis? Or you could try to maybe get a cut of each sale or something like that, and then say, hey, can I send you some free phone calls for a day, and we can just test it out. And if you get some sales from the phone calls, some appointments, some bookings, then we can talk in the future. You could talk about it, if you want to keep the phone calls coming or what. And it's a great idea. They're already paying. That's the thing. Somebody on Google AdWords is already paying for traffic. And so paying for phone calls is going to be a no-brainer to them. You can also look on the map itself, not on the first results here that are these people are already ranking, they're already getting calls. But what you want to do is go to the people that are not in the top 3, like this, and you want to go down here, and down here, these people are not ranking, so they're not getting calls off of maps. And you can even go in there and show them, hey, here's your listing way down here, here's mine way up here, and I'm getting calls every day off of this, and I'd love to send them to you. Or if they might not even be on the map at all, you might say, hey, I'm looking here, I don't see your business here at all, but look at all your competitors. They're going to know who their competitors are, that's for sure. And if you just show them this list and say, hey, I don't see you here, but I see, this pet care, I see City Pets Chicago, I see these competitors, these competitors, they're going to nod their head. They know who they are. Would you like to get calls from these top spots right here? Because I have phone calls coming in. I have a listing right here, and you could even show them, hey, just call the number right now from your cell phone, and you'll see that my phone rings. And if you set it up right, then you've got the phone already forwarded to your cell phone for that appointment that you've got with your prospect, and the number rings directly to you, and it could be ringing directly to them. I have a client that really is really hungry. You can set up even more listings in other suburbs and other local areas of the same nearby, anywhere where they'd be willing to take a client from, and sell them even more calls. You could tell them, hey, we could start out with this many calls, and I could have you scaled up in a couple of months, we could double those calls, and it's just an awesome way. And you've got people right here that you see that are already paying for advertising that you can contact, as well as people that aren't getting calls, that aren't getting much out of their Google Maps stuff at all, that you can pursue and sell. I personally like doing it on a pay-per-call basis or on a commission basis, a percentage of sale, but you could also just do a flat rate based on what your idea of their profit margin is. I personally like the pay-per-call basis because then you have the ability to scale it up and increase it if you're able to get more calls for them, and it leaves you quite a large upside to expand into.